you cannot do this. How are we going to let your grandparents know about this and all that? Are you sure? What did we do to cause this terrible thing to happen to her?
Hi, my name is Harold Kameya.
Aloha, my name is Ellen Kameya.
You might say that we were living a storybook existence. We had kids that were well behaved and doing well in school, and I was involved with the father-son, father-daughter program at the YMCA. I had a job in Westwood at that time that took me away from home a lot, leaving the home at about 7 o'clock in the morning and coming back at about 6 o'clock at night. So a lot of the burden fell on Ellen.
I was teaching school full time, driving the kids to their sports practice, driving them to music lessons, swimming lessons, and I was packing in everything after school that the kids needed me to do. And so on a invisible list, I would say that we were checking off all of the boxes, for what good parents should do, and going to church every Sunday and doing everything right until we found out that Valerie was gay, and it felt like our life became a shambles. And Harold will tell you how he found out before I did.
So our daughter was going to Grinnell College in Iowa, coming back during the winter time. And in the winter of 1987, I guess she was a sophomore, she came back and she was somewhat subdued, very quiet, and was wondering what in the world was bothering her. And I was putting up some wallpaper at that time, and I was having a chance to talk to her while I was doing that, and talking about the problems that I faced as a youngster with my severe stuttering and so forth, and trying to get her to open up, but had no idea. In February or so, I was on my personal computer at that time, and I noticed that she wrote some things in there. So I thought, wonder what's in there, and took a little peek, and she had written about how she was so fearful driving down to the Gay and Lesbian Center on Highland Boulevard and walking in the parking lot, going there and trying to seek some help. So I recall realizing that she must be a lesbian, and I recall tears streaming down my cheeks with my hand still on the keyboard. And but because Ellen is the type that worries a lot, and so I had to keep quiet, wait until the summertime when Valerie came back home, when the two of the boys were out of the house. I said, hey, let's have a little meeting. I'm not sure exactly what my first words were, but it takes us a while to learn about our sexuality, I think. I said, are you a lesbian? And you could hear the shock in her face and the gears turning in her mind and so forth. And she finally says that, well, I'm either a lesbian or bi. Even though I expected those words, I did not know what else to say other than, are you sure? And so anyway, Ellen, of course, was caught completely off guard. And but we did say, after we just did not know what other question to ask, we just said we love her and gave her a hug. And I really recall that strange, eerie feeling that as she walked back to her bedroom, this person that I thought I knew so well was a complete stranger in this part of her life. And so anyway, the next day I went to work, and Ellen was able to regain her balance and was saying, what are you doing to our family? Do you remember anything else?
I didn't regain my balance. I couldn't sleep that night, and I thought, what is this going to mean to our family? She's got to change her mind. So I was storming around in the house and saying to her, Valerie, you cannot do this. How are we going to let your grandparents know about this and all that? Are you sure?
Valerie had the phone number for Adele Starr, the founder of Los Angeles P-Flag, and she dialed the number and said, "Here, Mom, please talk to this lady."
I said, no, I'm not going to talk to them.
Because they're going to make me love gays and lesbians.
Yeah, I said, I don't want to start loving gays and lesbians. I don't want to talk to them. I thought that this was irreparable damage for our family. I said, what did we do to cause this terrible thing to happen to her? So we were angry, we were confused, we were ashamed of our family, and I didn't know how we were going to continue with this. And as a Christian, it quickly made me think church was going to be dangerous, because our children went to summer camp at Mount Hermon, and we went to family camp, and he was sitting on the board at the church, and I thought I was going to be judged by the people at the church as not being a good Christian mother who didn't teach my daughter to be a Christian. And so I felt really guilty, like, why is this happening to us?
So we faded away from church, and a year later we found a church in our neighborhood close by that were having workshops on the H word, homosexuality, that you never heard mentioned at churches back then.
The people who helped us to grow as Christians were progressive ministers at various churches, because our own Asian community, including the ministers at that time, abandoned us, and we didn't know why we were guilty, but we did feel guilty.
So the first exposure to Asian gays was our first P-Flag meeting in April or so of 1990. And we're fearful going there because of what if we find someone there that we knew. Now we would just love it if we
now we would
ran
have.
across it. But anyway, so being the old, Ellen will tell you that she spent 3 hours there at the meeting in tears, crying.
The first meeting,
Yeah.
Just because I had to say my name is Ellen and my daughter's a lesbian. And, ooh, that word just made me feel ashamed. And I cried for the whole 3 hours. And the people there, the parents and the gays and the lesbians, said, "Come back and we'll teach you how to live life with a child who's gay. The first thing you're going to have to do, Ellen, is to mourn the death of your heterosexual dream for Valerie, because those things are not going to happen." And they were right. The shock of having a daughter say that she's gay implies that she's probably not going to get married, and she surely won't have babies, which she proved wrong, because we do have a grandchild from Valerie. But that was very painful for me to have to accept that Valerie was not going to be able to have a child.
Way back then, in 1990, things were quite different. This is before the internet. And so they had helplines. In the newsletter, they had helplines for every area code in Los Angeles City, Los Angeles County. And the reason why they had helplines in every area code was people were very afraid at that time. People were afraid that if they called within their own area code, they might be calling someone that they knew. So eventually, Ellen became the Asian hotline person, and she got calls from New York and
Syracuse and all
and so
kinds
forth,
of
yeah.
places.
We're asked by Adele Starr to be with them on a panel at the
Pasadena.
APAIT, Asian Pacific AIDS Intervention Team, had a conference on AIDS in Pasadena. So we were very fearful of going there. We didn't want any photos to be taken of us, et cetera, et cetera. So we were asked to be on a PFLAG panel the stars and us. And there was about a dozen young Asian men there. We just told our story, just saying that we found out that our daughter was gay and that we love her and support her. At the end of that, these men walked around with tears streaming down their faces. I said, wow, we were not aware that they were in such pain. And seeing the amount of pain that they were in made us realize that, gee, if just speaking out about our daughter could provide so much emotional help, we would do that whenever asked.
And so because we're the only Asians there at PFLAG, every time any kind of opportunity arose, Adele Starr, the president, didn't have anybody else except us to say, will you do this? And so she said, there's a LA Unified School District has, again, lesbian committee. So would you like to represent PFLAG there on the committee? And I said to Harold, I was a teacher in LA Unified, and we got this weekly newsletter, and I don't want people to see my name in that commission. And he said to me, oh, they'll just say, oh, I didn't know that Ellen was a lesbian, and that was very silly. So both of us went to sit. 1 June, LA Unified School District, what do they call them? The education panel. Everybody.
The Board of Education.
Board of Education. All voted to have
Gay Pride Month.
Gay Pride Month in June, except Warren Furutani, and the committee said you need to go to straighten him out. I said, why? I don't do that kind of stuff. And so they said, you need to go. And so I had to go. And it's a very frightening thing if you've never done such things. So I prepared, and I went with a representative from the commission, and they give you a microphone, and you're allowed to speak for 3 minutes. And after 3 minutes, no matter where you are in your speech, they just drop the mic.
The microphone sinks down into
the
room.
And so we went early, and we're watching the board people fooling around and all that. They wouldn't even give me through. So I went home, I was typing up a letter saying that I'm the Japanese American mother and I didn't get a chance to finish telling you about how we were so proud that our daughter had graduated with honors and was a model Asian child, only to realize that she was one of the kids at risk because she's gay. And so Darren was at UCLA at the time. So he says, Mom, you can't fight Goliath. I said, that's what you think when a mother tiger gets angry. She just will bite you. And so anyway, I got 3 Asian gay men, 3 Asian women, and Harold and I, we dressed in our power suits, and we practiced the night before. And when we went to his office to confront it, and he was shocked because there was a whole group of Asian people. I said, you need to tell us, what don't you understand? Why are you the only one? And LA Unified is the 2nd largest district in the country. And why did you do that? And it turned out that he didn't know enough about it. And I thought, you know what, you can't vote against my child just because you don't know. So we told him, now you have a group of us who will be the people that you turn to if there's anything you don't understand.
We believe in same-sex marriage. We believe in love. We believe in people being able to join together in the institution of marriage, no matter what their gender, no matter what their background.
And several years later, he was the MC of an Asian occasion where he was passing out awards for advocacy in LGBT.
And he gave me this very large, what do you call that plant?
The bonsai plant.
Bonsai plant. I went on the stage and I really wanted to kick him and to tell him, do you know that Asian lady? That was me. But I didn't do that because my mother taught me good manners. So I couldn't do.
I think it was about 1996 or 1997 when the Nakatani family came out with a book called
Honor
Thy Children. And we had seen some clippings of the San Jose Mercury, I think it was, talking about this family that had 3 sons, and they all died, 2 from AIDS and 1 from the gunshot, the violence. And they came out with a book, and I learned that the mother of the family was 2 years ahead of me in my high school. So we were eager to go to the book signing and to hear them speak at Centenary, the Methodist Church. Then a few days before the event, we were asked to be on the panel with them. We knew that the event would be covered by the Rafu Shimpo, but then also that weekend, that very same weekend, our sons were graduating, one from college and one from high school. And my parents and Ellen's, the father, were going to be in town. So my parents flew in on a Tuesday night, and I drove, they're staying with my uncle in Gardena, so I drove down there after work and greeted them and so forth. And then I thought I'd better invite them to the event on the weekend. So I first began with homosexuality 101. So I said, what do you folks know about homosexuality? And my mother was taken back to, huh? So I had to explain about sexual orientation and that about Valerie. And she said, oh, really? And she was shocked and so forth. Then I said about us being on the panel on the weekend, would you like to come? And my mother was still off balance a little bit, said, well, I don't know. We might be busy, So the next day after work, I continued part 2. And by Friday, she said, oh, the event, when is it going to be? I'd like to be there. So, so she was there, and Ellen's father and my father as well. And so, in a way, after it was all over, Phil Shigekuni mentioned that he asked my mother, so what do you think? And because I was a severe stutterer for most of my life, her initial reaction was, oh, my son can speak. Initially, there's a feeling of being paralyzed by the thoughts of Asian shame. And we were hesitant in taking part in the pride parades. However, after me meeting so many gays and lesbians and being supported by the ministers and so forth, after we came out to our parents, the feeling was that with what we knew, it would be shameful for us to just be quiet and not speak out. So I experimented with various signs to see what would create the most reaction and so forth. And when Ellen carried a sign saying, "Proud Asian mom of a gay kid," that's when the results were really amazing, because lesbians as well as gays would run out to the street and give her a hug and pose for the cameras and so forth. And when I had the same kind of sign, the same thing happened to me too. So
I think, well, I know that the reason I put proud is because I kept thinking Asian people are saying you should be ashamed because you didn't follow the stereotype. And I said, I don't have to be ashamed. I'm proud. Every family is different, and our family had an advantage because Valerie was firstborn and her 2 brothers were younger than she was, because we have heard stories at PFLAG where the sibling loves his gay sibling, but for some reason the spouse doesn't understand or doesn't want the children to be with that thing. So we didn't have that. So I had a serious conversation with my 2 boys, and I said, now did you know that your sister is gay No homophobic person is allowed to come here. I just want you to know, because if you pick somebody like that, I will stand with Valerie because I'm her mother. But of course, they didn't have to worry about it because they were young. So every time they bring somebody over and they would say, "Mom, she's not homophobic." I said, "Good, let her come in." But I don't know why I thought that teenage kids hated gay people. I didn't know that. So anyway, I was at home one day, and I said to Roger, who was 15 at that time in high school, and I said, "Roger, your sister Valerie said that she's a lesbian. Did you suspect?" And he said, "No." And I said, "How is it going to impact your life?" He said, "Well, not on an everyday basis, but I guess if I meet a gay or lesbian person in the future, I would have compassion for them because my sister's gay." And I started bawling, and I said, "How did you know that, Roger?" He says, "Mom, everybody knows there are gay people in the world." So I said, well, that's when I said, I think my hope for any future positive things will come from my children's generation. They're in their 50s now. And as I was not able to find people in my generation who got it, I think my children's generation is fine.
So we went to a few PFLAG national conventions, and one that we enjoyed was the one in New Orleans. I recall on the Sunday they had an informal service. They had the words to a song called "Here I Am, Lord," which I had not heard of before. And when we sang that, it was as though the words were
Speaking to us.
marching orders in a sense. And I thought that it was quite appropriate. So it was, "I, the Lord of sea and sky, I've heard." Oh, having a hard time. "I've heard my people cry, all who dwell in dark and sin, my hand will save. Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I've heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord. If you lead me, I will hold your people in my heart." And then goes on and on. By the time we got to the first verse, tears were just streaming down our faces, and our lips could hardly form the words, and so it's quite moving.
We don't hear God talking to us like the way some people around here say, the Lord said this. But that the words of that song made me know that it was for me to see these people who are hurting and do something. And so I wrote this poem just so that I could tell her what happened. So I called it Dear Valerie. This was written in 1995. It says, "With wondrous delight we greeted you that rainy night in October. 16 long hours of labor, then a beautiful gift from God. Valerie mi eko, we named you, meaning brave, beautiful, graceful child. You grew into a magical person, kind, sweet, smart, and gentle. Honors and accolades were many throughout your years in school. Through those years, you always remained our kind, sweet, gentle daughter. Unaware I was of your inner struggles, unaware of your private pain. You trusted us and began to speak the truth about who you are. Disbelief, shame, guilt, and sadness. Afraid I was for you and for me. A good life was what I wished for you. Darkness and grief was all I saw. Patience and understanding you gave me. Your hope was for my change of heart. Over the years, I have come to know your sisters and brothers in a new community. Thanks to you for being my teacher. You have done an incredible job. I have learned that being different is just another way of being. I love you, Mom."
So after the 1993 PFLAG National Convention in New Orleans, the next one was in San Francisco. We were eager to go there because there was going to be the first Asian parent that was going to be on the panel, Mr. Yi and his son. And so we signed up early and so forth, but a week before the convention, we get a call saying that Mr. Yi and his son have backed out, and we want you and your wife to be on. So and we were shocked, and so I said, okay, And then maybe 1 or 2 days before the convention, before we were going to fly up there, we get a call saying, "This is Michael Smith from Cable News Network, and we understand you're going to be on a panel and we'd like to interview you." Is it Cable News? That's CNN. And I said, "Sorry, but we are not out to my parents, especially who watch a lot of CNN." I said, "Excuse me, I thought you had a gay child." I said, "Well, yes, but I, as a parent, am not out to my parents as having a gay child." At the PFLAG National Conference in San Francisco, there was the plenary panel, and with 800 people there, all Caucasian members at that time. So Ellen insisted that they have some Asian representation there. So she got 12 passes for the local API, the gays and lesbians, to be there. And so we had a nice group there. And through that exposure, we were able to make the connections with them. I'm not sure what year it was, but GAPSON, Gay Asian Pacific Support Network, were awarding the Pacific Bridge Award. And one year they honored us there. We brought the Valerie back from New York for that. And so when we were honored, there was a standing ovation for us, and it was surprising and an emotional event. We tried to start a PFLAG support group at our home. That went on for a few months, but
Not months.
we could not get anyone to. We could not get new people to come.
And we went to the center.
And then during the latter part of the 1990s, we had a group that started meeting in the East-West Bank in Chinatown for a few times, and API Equality was just forming. It was during that time period that we had a support group there at that LGBT village. Then after that, Andre Ting offered the use of his building, and so we went there and met there for a while, and then Marsha came on board. And
I have to tell you, I don't think it would be at this point, because it was the two of you that supported my idea to have PFLAG SGV.
to fight their battles if they are not in a position to speak out for themselves and so forth. And it's love. If you love your child, you have to do that. So children can help their parents by education, support, and patience.
Valerie has been known to tell her lesbian Asian friends, if my mother can change, anybody can change.
And my final words are to love your children deeply,